everyone! We have officially made it to the world's northernmost town. Wow. Actually feels quite rewarding just to say that sentence out loud. But before we get further into this, I just want to go ahead and put out this disclaimer and say that we're not here to film a Nat Geo special. We're simply here to share our normal, everyday, real cruising lives on board our little floating home and share the things that we explore while we're here. Basically, the exact same thing that we've always been doing over the past 7 years, only this time, we're in Svalbard. Well guys, welcome to LONGYEARBYEN. This place is actually quite different than what I was expecting, to be honest, because there's about 2,000 people that live here year-round, and for how small of a town it is, it's actually more of a small city because there's absolutely everything here. There are a couple bars here, there are a bunch of outdoor stores, there's a mall, cafes, there's a museum, and there's even a cinema. Because I'm assuming in the winter it's cold, it's dark, people need something to do, so they go watch movies. That sounds fun.
Yeah, that's what we did all winter.
That's what we did all winter in our boat. Yeah, but this is actually, most people that come here from Norway, this is their starting point. Although in a lot of movies and documentaries that we see of Svalbard, people tend to skip showing this town because the main focus of people coming to Svalbard is more for like the expedition, right? Seeing polar bears, seeing walruses and glaciers and ice and all this awesome wilderness stuff. But the reality is, this town is the core of Svalbard. This is where everything starts and everything comes back to. And there's a bunch of tour ships. This is where, I think cruise ships come here too, which is insane to think that there's 2,000 people living here. And when a cruise ship comes, there's 6,000 people coming out of that boat, which means the population of LONGYEARBYEN triples, which is absolutely insane to think about it. But it's a really, really lovely town. There's a bunch of construction going on right now because in the winter there are certain sections that are prone to avalanches, and a couple years ago there's a couple houses that got completely destroyed by a slide, which is why they're rebuilding the residential section again. And you can actually see the mountain right behind me. They are building right now some avalanche protection blocks? Fences, yeah. So we are now heading to downtown. We're going down to town and check out this beautiful place. There's, like I said, there's a museum, and I don't know much about the history of LONGYEARBYEN yet, which is why we're going to the museum to learn more and hopefully to share the history with you. So. Heavy door. It's a custom here to take your shoes off when you go inside a place. So they offer us either little shoe covers or we can take off our shoes. And since we love being barefoot, we're gonna take off our shoes. So apparently Svalbard was discovered by total chance. He's huge. He looks so scary, but it's a beautiful beast for sure. I definitely wouldn't want to be this close to a polar bear.
insane. In less than 200 years, they pretty much wiped out all the whales up here. So Svalbard was originally found by whalers coming up here to hunt whale for blubber, and it wasn't until later that they started to settle it and mine coal here. But that was after pretty much all the whales had been hunted. I like when you push buttons and things happen. That is definitely a job I would never want to have. Like, it's one thing to be in like a big modern day mine with big machinery and you have like a ceiling, but like lying on your back in a tiny little coal vein, drilling and blasting your way out. That's tough, man. So this is something I wasn't expecting to read about. The glaciers here are only 3,000 to 4,000 years old. Apparently about 5,000 years ago, Svalbard was actually warmer than it is now, and the glaciers would have been a lot smaller back then. So they've been growing in the last 1,000 years or so, and it just depends on how much snow falls in the winter and how warm the summers are, depending if they grow or shrink. I thought they were older than that, so that's pretty interesting. Didn't know.
Well, if you don't know, now you know.
If you don't know, now you know.
After soaking up some knowledge from the world's northernmost museum, it was quite nice to walk around town and to see some of that mining history in person. This town is built on coal, and there is a lot of it, everywhere. Oh yeah, the thought of possibly grabbing a handful for our wood stove crossed our minds a few times. But raw mineral coal burns really, really hot, and not something we were ready to experiment with this far north. Even though many of the original mine shafts have been abandoned here, there are a few active coal mines that are still operational today that supply Svalbard with its power. So I guess if you want to be technical about it, right now, since our boat is plugged into the dock, it means currently we have a coal-powered electric sailboat. Yeah, I'll let that sink in for a minute.
Well, we just walked into town this morning and picked up our rifle. Here in LONGYEARBYEN, it's not a requirement to carry one, but as soon as you step outside of town, it's actually required by law that you have a rifle, because it is polar bear country and there are polar bears around, and it's not something that needs to be taken lightly. So we're meeting up with some friends today to go for a hike up the hill and stretch our legs after our sail here, just to get off the boat and walk around a bit before we set sail into the fjord.
Well, it's very far apart from Europe, but it was still part of war area, and the Germans sent some 2 boats up here, 2 big boats, Scharenhorst and Tilpitz, and they came in here and they fired with a big cannon to LONGYEARBYEN. They couldn't get really into the fjord, but they could fire to the city, and some soldiers were hiding here, and it was just ridiculous, like 10-20 soldiers hiding in this place.
Hiking up and around the main settlement gave us a sense of how unique this landscape truly is. The rocks have been cracked and fractured by freezing water over thousands of years, creating a landscape unlike any other we've ever experienced. On top of the hill, we hiked by a cairn, built in memory of a young hiker who was killed by a polar bear. A reminder that although the trail doesn't go too far from town, it doesn't mean that there are no polar bears roaming around.
I was with a group and we met one other guy from town. He was just with his running shoes and the rifle. Yeah. But he was just making for sports running around here. And
there are more bears on this island than people. So it's definitely better to be prepared and not have an unfortunate encounter than the other way around. Whoa! We're going down there. The fossils that we found in some of the rocks here on our hike even show evidence that Svalbard was once a tropical paradise before it migrated north. On our way back to town and back to our boat, we met a few different types of birds and even had a visit from a few of the local reindeer, and they are adorable. Okay, before we end this episode, there's one more thing that we need to do, and that is a giveaway. So, if you guys follow our videos, then you may know that after every country, well, most countries that we visit, we do something called a swag bag giveaway, which is a bag that we pick up in that place and fill it up with a bunch of trinkets and souvenirs that we personally pick up from that country. And when we leave that country, we give it away to one of you. I know technically we haven't left Norway because Longyearbyen is still part of Norway, but we have left the mainland. So I think it's still pretty valid to do a giveaway now. We've spent a year in Norway, so there are a lot of good stuff in there. And all you have to do to win that bag is subscribe to this channel, like this video, and comment down below, really, any comment, as long as it's nice. And our super genius computer will randomly select one of these comments, and then voila, you can win the swag bag of Norway. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I really hope to see you guys next week because there are lots of amazing more adventures to come. But until then, Svalbard says cheers.